Hi, I'm Coach Corey Wayne, and this is my video coaching newsletter. And the topic of today's newsletter is going to be trusting intuition and inner voice. Well, I've got an email here from a guy who writes, and he just found out about my work, and he said what led him to my work is what pretty much most people, I'd say like 90% of the people who first come to me, he's in a state of just total emotional turmoil with his situation in his personal life. And he started watching some videos, started reading my ebook, and was thinking, this fucking guy, he was really skeptical at first, thinking I'm just some kind of pickup artist dude. He didn't realize, obviously, that I was a life coach in what I do. But as he started reading the book and started listening to the progression of everything I went through, how I used to struggle, how I used to screw things up, and how I learned to do things properly, he was able to see some of the same kinds of situations that I talked about in my book. He'd experienced them in his own life, and he was able to see the same kinds of patterns with the things that I was doing that was causing mistakes, and he could see the parallels between how he was doing very similar things in his own life, and that's really helped give him some clarity and put him in a peaceful state of mind. And he says for the longest time in his life, he said he wasn't courageous enough to make the kind of changes necessary, but after going through my book, he feels a lot more confident and a lot better about what he's going to do going forward. And as you may have heard me say in the past, what is confidence? Confidence is doing what you know how to do and doing it really well. Because I know a lot of people come to me and they're in like a really bad emotional state. They got dumped, or they had a bad breakup, or they want to get somebody back, that things seem to be going along, and then all of a sudden they get friend zoned. That's not a pleasant experience. And being able to watch some videos like the videos that I do, or read some of my articles, or start reading my book can really fill in a knowledge gap, because you can see the patterns are so obvious when you know what to look for. It's kind of like my book gives you the flashlight. And so while everybody else is feeling around in the dark, you have a flashlight and you're able to see where to go with the flashlight. And you also have the book, which is like a roadmap of how to get there. So I have a quote that I wrote in this particular topic, and then we're going to go through his email. Because really the core issue, it's one of the things that Tony Robbins says, people will act consistently with who they view themselves to be, whether that view is accurate or not. And if maybe, like most people, I know like how I grew up, I didn't have any great role models that I could look at and see a great healthy relationship of what to follow. Not in any part of my family. It just was non-existent. So for most of us, we have to learn this stuff on our own. And when you grow up in an environment and you don't get enough strokes as a kid, you're not told that you're loved, you're not told that you're special or amazing, or that your parents are proud of you, you never hear the words I love you, you're going to doubt yourself. And when you doubt yourself, you're in a fearful state. And what you fear, you tend to attract. And when you don't know what you're doing, and on top of that, you're in a fearful state, your actions are driven by trying to gain some certainty, and you typically tend to force things, you tend to become a little controlling, and you just try to move things along so you can get to a place where you feel like you're in your comfort zone. And like what a lot of guys do when they start dating a woman they really like is they want to lock her down to a commitment. Because when you look at what's mostly in movies and TV these days, it's like the guy's got to be in this mad dash to the finish line to lock a girl up because some other dude might come along and take her off of your hands. And so you have that, you see that in movies over and over, and you don't see any good, healthy examples to follow in your own family. I mean, society as a whole. I mean, the divorce rate's over 60%. The numbers are not that good. There's not a lot of great role models of people that can actually teach you anything that will be helpful to you. By reading a book like mine, you're able to fill in that knowledge gap and see the patterns of what works. And when you hear these different success stories like I talk about in my videos, even though you may have not had a lot of time or a lot of experience implementing these things, just seeing what other people are doing and what other people are experiencing as I go through all these different individual stories where I talk about pickup skills, dating skills, relationship skills, quality of life skills, focusing on your mission and purpose, the importance of taking care of your body, the importance of having your focus in the right area so you can focus on your outcomes. It's like everything else just kind of magically lines up in the process. So let's go through this quote and then I'll read his email. And the quote says, "Our birthright and natural state of being is one of abundance, courage, and success. We literally were born to succeed and already have within us all that we need to accomplish our grandest goals and dreams. The only way you can accomplish your grandest goals and dreams is to be brave enough to step outside of your current comfort zone and move towards the things that you want, but that you fear might not be possible. Success only comes after you pay the price on your journey by taking action in spite of your fears, putting the time in to improve yourself, developing your skills, learning from your mistakes, adapting and refining your approach, and becoming what you need to be so that reaching your full potential is simply a matter of time and repetition." It's like if you start a business and you're an entrepreneur. Well, the reality is when you're an entrepreneur, most of your ideas are not going to work, especially if you're creating something that doesn't exist. And then maybe there's not a lot of people or a lot of companies out there that you can go model their success or copy their business model and do the same things on your own to speed up your learning curve. So instead, you're kind of learning to invent the wheel, if you will, all by yourself. And so you have to find, in a lot like my business here, it's like the way I go about my business was different than what anybody else does in the self-help industry because I wanted something that matched up well with my personality, and that was the hardest part. That's the hardest part of any business, is having a great idea, having a great product or service that will change people's lives or make their lives easy, and learning to package that up in a way so you can have it as a career, have it as a business, and offer it in a way where people can actually see value and they'll want to hire you for whatever that value is that you offer, or they'll buy whatever your product happens to be. But that's the hardest part. And most people, because we're all stuck focused on, I got to get this quick fix, I got to solve this problem. Life is not like that. Like I remember, we're talking about self-help and learning what you need to succeed, something that was just an earth-shattering thing it was the Personal Power CDs of Tony Robbins, and he did infomercials back in the early 90s. It was on all the time. And I remember I was taking a semester off from college at that point, and at that point I had taken calculus 3 times and dropped it all 3 times. And it didn't matter if I got every single one of my other classes out of the way, all my upper level classes, got them all the way and passed. If I didn't have calculus and pass it, I wasn't going to get my diploma. And so what I didn't realize that I was doing was my fear of finding out that I wasn't smart enough to pass calculus caused me to avoid it. Because remember, people will do more to avoid pain than they'll do to gain pleasure. So for me, the thought of finding out or learning that I was just too stupid to pass calculus, that was terrifying because I wouldn't be able to achieve my goals. I'd never get my GC license. I'd never get the kind of job I wanted. These are all the things that were going through my mind. And that was terrible. And so what I did without even realizing how I subconsciously sabotaged my success was I moved away from that potential pain of finding out that I just wasn't smart enough to pass calculus. And I watched TV, or I went out with friends, or I came up with excuses, or I put everything off till the last minute, and then I would try to cram, which would be impossible, and I'd go in, I'd fail a test, and I'd end up dropping the class about a quarter of the way in before the drop date kicked in. And what I realized was to change the way I thought about things. Instead of focusing on what happens if I'm not smart enough to pass calculus, I looked at it, well, what happens if I don't pass calculus? And what's the pleasure I'm going to gain? Just like what I've been talking about showing this pad, which I love. Again, you can get these on Amazon.com. And what's cool is these pages, they actually are perforated, so you can tear them in half. And they're great. You can stick them up. So all the pros, it's like, so I literally learned to think this way. I first started out, I was always writing things down. So when I had a goal, I would look, the pros would be all the positive things that will happen if I take the action I know I need to take, and I achieve the things or do the things that I know I need to do. And then the cons obviously would be all the negative consequences if I didn't do what I know I needed to do. And it's like I was able, that small thing made a massive difference. And for the first year or two, I wrote all that stuff down. Every goal that I had, I always had the pros and cons of everything. And because I did that so much, I did it over and over and over and over again, and I reviewed it constantly, and I refined it constantly with everything. With exercise now, it's part of the way I think. Every time I feel like being lazy, or I don't want to work out, or I don't want to run 3 miles, or I don't want to go to the gym and do weights, or eat healthy, or I feel like eating junk food because there's nothing in my fridge, I think, what are the consequences? What are the positive benefits if I do what I know I need to do? I mean, I think this way now. And so it's by time and repetition. So I put a lot of time and a lot of repetition in doing that. And now, again, it's part of the way I think. It's why a big reason why I've been able to accomplish so much in my life is understanding my own internal psychology and what motivates human beings to do what they do. So let's go through the quote. The quote says, our birthright, I want to read this again. Our birthright and natural state of being is one of abundance, courage, and success. We literally were born to succeed and already have within us all that we need to accomplish our grandest goals and dreams. The only way you can accomplish your grandest goals and dreams is to be brave enough to step outside of your current comfort zone and move towards the things that you want, but that you fear might not be possible. Like when I was in college and struggling with calculus, I was afraid I couldn't do it. So I moved away from that because I was afraid. Success only comes after you pay the price in your journey by taking action in spite of your fears, putting the time in to improve yourself, developing your skills, learning from your mistakes, adapting and refining your approach, and becoming what you need to be so that reaching your full potential is simply a matter of time and repetition. And what I did with calculus is I simply took all the problems that we were assigned every week and I broke them down and I'm doing a couple of those problems every single night, 5 days a week. And so I broke it down into little bite-sized pieces that was pleasant, because if I sat there and tried to work for 4 or 5 or 6 hours, or say, I'm going to take all Saturday and work on calculus because I had put it off for so long, I'd work for an hour or two and it would get so frustrating that I would just want to avoid it and not do anything. And so it's like the old saying, how to eat an elephant, one bite at a time. So I broke it down in little bite-sized pieces. And when I did that, on my 4th try, I got a fucking A in calculus. So I wasn't so stupid after all, I realized. It's just I had a really crappy strategy. So let's go through this guy's email. He says, Dear Corey, this is just a short notice to extend a big fat thank you to you. I just came across your website and your free ebook today while searching for some advice in a current situation of great emotional turmoil caused by, well, I think I don't need to state the obvious here. That's what led me to Tony Robbins' work. I was sitting there frustrated. I was like 5 years in my college degree, and I still had like 2 to 3 years left worth of classes. I was thinking, fuck, I'm never going to graduate. Like, if my friends were starting to graduate and come home, and then here I was. I still had another 2, 3 years to go at the rate I was going. I was only taking 3 to 4 classes a semester. And I was just frustrated as hell. I had a good job. I was already working in the industry, but I wanted to get my degree because I couldn't move away. I couldn't do anything until I finished school. He says, I must admit that I was very skeptical at first, suspecting that this was just the material of another run-of-the-mill pickup artist. Well, I'm a life coach. I'm not a pickup artist. I happen to talk a lot about dating, relationships, and pickup skills. But really being successful in your personal life is really about having your shit together in your life as a whole. Having a purpose, having a mission, having something that you're working to accomplish and become every day when you get up that's really emotionally compelling to you. Meaning on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 10. 10 being I love it, 1 being I hate it. Because if you're getting up every day and going to something that's like a 3 on a scale of 1 to 10, you're barely going to work hard enough to not get fired. You're never going to become really successful at something like that or make any real good money at something like that. He says, but oh boy, I was wrong. Leafing through your ebook, reading your own personal experiences, failures, and learning processes, and most of all, realizing more through your dead-on examples and explanations is simple and brutal, yet at the same time reassuring and powerful truth that 100% of our problems, fears, and insecurities are caused by ourselves, and that we're 100% in charge of changing that. Well, there's a great quote that I love. I can't remember who said it, but it says, in life, you're either a passenger or a pilot. You are the master of your fate, and you are the captain of your soul. He says, well, that simple yet overwhelming realization just simply brought the tears to my eyes. Tears of joy as well as tears of regret that obviously I haven't been courageous enough so far to face that simple truth much earlier in my life, which would have spared me a lot of purely self-inflicted pain. It's like I was talking about in yesterday's video. It's like we as human beings, people won't change their belief system. They won't change their flawed approach until they recognize this shit just not working for me. I keep getting the same results, and I'm not happy with the results. And you finally admit to yourself that this shit ain't working. And that's when you're open to making the change. It's like I've said many times, people don't come to me because everything's going great in their life. They come to me because something is going sideways, whether it's in their career or their purpose or their business or how they're taking care of themselves or how they're showing up in their personal life or the quality of the people that they're hanging out with. It's like one of the things that Tony says, the quality of your life is in direct proportion to the expectations of your peer group. Quality of your life is in direct proportion to the quality of the people who you consistently spend your time with. He says, I'm going to spend the rest of the night finishing your ebook, which even though much of it should be obvious to every grown-up man, if we would only be much more in touch with our instincts, our intuitions, and our unerring inner voice, truly is an invaluable source of consolation, advice, and powerful help to any guy trying to mend a broken heart and doing better the next time around. I mean, think about it. Society is all about conform, do what everybody else does, be realistic, settle. It's not realistic to get the kind of lover that you really want. That's just a fairy tale. You can't really have a great job, but you should strive to earn a decent living. It's like you literally get brainwashed. And then when you're surrounded by a sea of people who are living lives that are way less than what they're capable of living, and we all want to feel good about the choices that we're making. And if the choices that we're making suck, well, we try to get everybody around us to make the same shitty choices so we feel better about our shitty choices. That's why it's so important to have clarity and have a vision for your life and a mission for what you want to be, who you want to become, and the kind of life and lifestyle you want to create. Because when you have something compelling, then you can tune out the noise. You can look at the other people that are trying to get you to settle and be just like them and say, I got more higher standards for myself. I want better for my life. I'm not willing to settle. Because you don't want to be one of those people that gets to the end of their lives and has nothing but regrets. I wish I'd have taken more risk. I wish I'd have spent more time with friends and family. I wish I'd have asked that person out. Whatever it happens to be. Because when you get to the end of your life, you're out of time. And how can you ever have the time if you never take the time? He says, reading your book is just like talking to your best buddy in times of serious emotional trouble. with the vital difference that most of our best buddies are just as clueless as we are when it comes to botched matters of the heart. That's another thing that I noticed as well. When I really started learning this stuff and really started progressing, 99.9% of the people that I knew, oh, I don't have time for that. No, I'm busy. And they just make excuses for staying the way they are. And most of those people, when you apply these same things in your life, you're going to end up leaving them behind, because then you'll attract other people into your life who are maybe more successful than areas that you'd like to be successful at. And they're the kind of people that have a positive word. So where maybe most of the people in your life, and you go, hey, I got this great idea for a business, or hey, I got this new career I'm going to go into. They go, oh, that's a stupid idea. That'll never work. And they start giving you business advice or career advice, and yet they're working a bullshit job themselves. But if you have people in your life who are striving to achieve and that believe that they can achieve, and when you come to them and you're like, this is what I've decided to do, they're like, that's fucking awesome. You should totally go for that. That's fucking great. Why? Because they're doing the same thing in their own lives. And so they push you to be better because they're on the same journey. But if your life is filled with people who everything they do, every area is about settling, it's going to be really hard to move forward if you spend a significant amount of your time with them. So you got to have supportive people around you who believe in your potential, who encourage you to reach your full potential. He says, thank you so much again, and of course you'll find an appropriate donation on your PayPal account very soon once I'm finished reading. Well, I definitely appreciate the donations, and if you appreciate the value of the work that I offer, my book, and the fact that I let you read it for free, and you want to show that appreciation, you go to my website, just click the PayPal donate button, which will be in the bottom of the toolbar on any page of my website. If you're subscribed to my email newsletter, there's links in there for it as well. And you can also donate on my YouTube channel. There's a button where you can click to support my work there if you're so inclined. All my best wishes, and keep up the great work. Well, thanks for another good. I mean, this is like a small success story, but it's just like a little bit of knowledge. Reading the book and going through it, it's like everybody knows a certain percentage of what they need to know to be successful in their personal life and in their career and in their business. And my book will help you fill in those knowledge gaps. Because if you know 70% of what you need to know in your personal life, the women that you date, attraction level wise, they're only going to get to about a 7. If you know 80% of what you need to know, you'll get to them to about an 8. And the book can help you fill in the gap, because a woman's not going to fall in love with you until her attraction level hits an 8, hits a 9, or a 10. That's when love really starts. And that's why every guy knows some amount. And the quicker you fill in that knowledge gap, the more you're going to have peace with it. And what's so beautiful about this stuff is that, like, when you read what's in the book, it's like you can look back at every mistake that you've ever made in your personal life and see exactly why you got rejected, exactly why it didn't work out. You see all the patterns. It's kind of like seeing the matrix for what it really is. So if you'd like to get my help personally, the quickest way is to go to my website, click the products tab at the top of your screen, and just follow the instructions for booking whichever coaching option happens to work best for you. If you want to see some of the other self-help books and products that I recommend, you click the products tab, and below the coaching options, I've got all the different products on Amazon.com that I recommend, and I highly recommend that you check them out as well. And I will talk to you soon.